What's going on, everybody? Now, what do we normally do on Fridays? We do Full Auto Friday. But today, I figured I'd change it up a little bit. I just happened to be on the road, as you'll see from the episode, a new version of the green screen, if you will. And I was with Mike Sarraille, who has been a previous guest on the podcast. And we were in Tampa for a documentary, Dropzone Everest, that Mike had done a trip to skydive into the base camp of Mount Everest last year, which is leading into our 777 expedition coming up in January. Basically, 2 weeks from the day this is released, I will be headed to Chile to start the expedition. So since we were there, and since I want to keep it kind of forward-facing and update people on what we have going on, I figured I'd grab a quick episode with him. So I'm sorry, no Q&A today, only a short episode with Mike. Now, on that note, I've received some messages that the last two podcasts have been skipping, and I went back and forth and I listened to the raw files. The raw files are clean, so I reached out to the hosting platform, and it looks like the only platforms that have an issue are the ones that are audio only. I haven't heard anything from YouTube or Spotify. So I got some feedback from them. I changed some file settings. Changed some formatting types. Bottom line is I've done everything but one last thing I can change, but what they have said is the changes I have made should solve the problem. So if you are on audio-only platform and this episode skips, please reach out to me and then I'll kind of fire off the last option that I have. And that's it. So it's not Full Out Friday. I don't know what this is. We're going to call this 777 Update with Mike Sarraille. Enjoy.
Okay, I got the red smoke. Gun run, north and south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke. Okay, copy, west of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now. Come on with it, baby, give it to me, I need it. Get cleared hot. Copy, cleared hot.
So on the leadership front, it's interesting that you every time I talk in front of an organization, I talk about when to instill the philosophy and ethos of your organization.
Day one.
Yeah, well, I usually recommend 10 years in because it's really easy to change ingrained habits. How many companies, though, don't do that? And I always...
All of them. Almost like 99% don't do it.
So I'll usually end sometime near the closing remark. I'll talk about the analogy I use is driver's license, because I've watched how my kids got their license and I know how I got my license, and I don't know anybody who didn't study for the test or practice to learn how to use a car that went to the DMV and was like, let's do this on their 16th birthday.
Yeah.
So if you practice and you find a mentor and you learn the way, and then you're in a parking lot and a rural road and then a city road, and eventually you go take your test because you're training for the test, It's the exact same thing as leadership. If you don't facilitate and foster that environment of being a leader from day one, they're going to get the corner office and be like, all right, fuckers, how do I do this?
Yeah. It's culture building, man.
Yeah.
I'd love to see you speak keynote, because I always take something from everyone. Then I'm like, oh, I'm going to take that. Now it's mine. I'm a plagiarist at fucking heart. But
How did Men's Journal find you? Because of the book?
because of the book, they did a review on the book.
Okay.
And then the dude was really cool that was writing the article, and we're talking. And we probably talked for an hour and a half. I'm like, bro, I got into it. I'm like, there were war fighters and warriors in the military. One thing that pisses me off is you call everyone a warrior in the military. I'm like,
What's the difference between the two in your mind?
one is technically and tactically proficient at the art of war. And they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. And a warrior is somebody who is a person of integrity, character, based on values, and more than importantly, knows restraint when not to kill. You know that, and you can probably articulate it better. You served with some guys that were good at the fucking job of being a warrior, or that break glass warrior.
Yeah.
But they like, bro, I wouldn't trust you with my money. I wouldn't trust you with my fucking wife.
For sure.
Then then you are not a warrior. You can call yourself whatever you fucking want, but if you can't be trusted outside of a combat zone, then in my definition, you're a warrior. And bro, you look at it like, I've met some civilians, who I call now warriors within their respective professions.
Yeah.
Some of them. I've met them, like Debbie Lee is an example. That woman had 3 kids. First husband was highly abusive. Second husband passed away. And that woman's mindset, she's like, she did everything she could to provide for her kids. I mean, she grinds, and she's a woman of like, she's a Christian woman of faith, just kept grinding, dude. That woman has a warrior mindset, and more of a stronger mindset than some of the guys we served with. Maybe not where we came from, but in the Marines and the conventional SEAL teams.
I feel like we have to find a better term than warrior. It's too broad.
Yeah, and so the everyday warrior was a combination of like anyone has the potential. A warrior exists. It's your choice. You're either going to be a warrior or not, out of the way you conduct yourself. And so the whole thing about the warrior is everyday warrior is behavior. To me, like leadership and culture is about behavior. Full stop.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in today's day and age with social media, everyone has a microphone, and all the influencers are like, I read 5 pages, or I read
It's
like
10.
one book.
It's
10 pages a day. I'm like, do you really? Do you really? Or are you putting out this bullshit? Like,
Well, they probably do read the 10 pages. I don't know if they're getting things out of the
10 pages is easy.
Yeah.
But I do this every day. Do you, dude? Do you really do that?
Theatrics. We've talked a lot about theatrics. It's, I think that's one of the downfalls of social media. I've said this so many times. It shows the peaks, but not the valleys. It's a curated look, and you could take snapshots. And I've had an experience a few times where I've met the influencers who are promoting like the incredibly disciplined, incredibly positive, everything in my life is great, and they're some of the most unhappy people that I've ever seen, except for in their social presence. And I'm not talking about people that we both know, because in your head you're probably like, who are you talking about?
Who? Come on.
I'm talking non-military.
Write it on a piece of paper.
No, I'm talking non-military people, because you have a choice. You show people what you want them to see, a
That is
snapshot
social
into your
media.
life.
Yeah, I don't show my wife. I don't show Jordan yelling at me, rightfully deserving of being yelled at.
I would
by
watch
Jordan.
that video.
Yes.
Do you know how to make a reel?
You know
Because
what?
that would be a sick reel.
If you want the truth, you've got to set up cameras in every corner of every room in everyone's life and broadcast those. This reality, like, bro, I'm out of balance. I preach balance.
Yeah.
But balance is like perfection. It's a complete and utter illusion. It doesn't mean you're trying to find balance, and you should always try to find balance. But I'm probably one of the most unbalanced people because of 777 and all we have on our plate right freaking now. And you can't say, for as long as you've been on the road, that you're at some semblance of balance right now.
No, I'm a mess right now. Like I'm on. For people watching this is obviously a different setting than the normal studio.
You're
But
gonna have to go back and some of the shit like Carly.
I told you I'll take out one thing.
No, take that back. Because I want to talk about the leadership development. No,
I'll take some of this stuff out. But yeah, I mean, I'm constantly on the road, which it's like this balance or lack of balance between being present, at home with Leah. She was just on the road with me before, so oftentimes we travel together. This is a very short trip where we're not going to be together, but away from my kids, away from being able to train, sleep cycle disrupted, but still trying to do everything that I want to do professionally. It's out of balance for sure. Like my sleep cycle's fucked up. I'm living on Dayquil and fucking Aleve right now because I'm getting off a cold. I'm on antibiotics for potential staph infection that I picked up on the jiu-jitsu mats. It's just it's like,
in Costa Rica.
Yeah,
Big surprise.
Shocker for sure. But yeah, it's tough. I strive to be balanced. I do the best that I can when I can, but at the same time, you got to make the sausage while it's raining. I think that's how the saying goes.
Who's the? And he caught me, man. I was doing an interview with is it Terrell Davis?
I have no idea who you're talking about.
No. Why am I blanking? The famous tight end from Denver Broncos that set records. And I say, hey,
I don't watch basketball, so
there you go. Neither do I. I have to guess. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not a big football guy, but I'm like, so hey, man, how do you achieve balance, or how did you achieve balance while having a Hall of Fame career? And it was almost like the Allen Iverson. You probably do remember this when he got asked, and he's like, "Are we talking about practice? Practice? We're talking about practice." Basically, this guy, he's like, balance. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
When you're trying to achieve anything exceptional, there is no balance because you have to pick and choose what you got to prioritize your time. And if that's your goal, your family sort of falls to the wayside. And I've heard this from business leaders that said, and you know this, like when you're an entrepreneur, you can choose about 3 things in your life. The business is one.
Yeah.
That's given. Your family is probably second, which means like you degrade on relationships. I don't talk to a lot of my buddies because I'm so focused on the business. And he's like, hopefully the third is health. And usually, like, I've been in the worst shape I've ever been. I mean, well, dude, in the SEAL teams, we got to work started at what, 10? You got to work out until about 10 when we were at the command.
you were an officer, so yeah, probably 10, 30, 11.
For you
What
guys
time
that-
would the enlisted guys bring up your coffee? Was it like 9-ish? 9:30?
Like 9:45. And if it wasn't made properly,
No, it's like, look at the facilities that we had. I mean, my favorite thing to do back on the East Coast, because it was fucking ranges that were available 365 days a year. No oversight needed, no RSO. You sign yourself in, fucking ammo in your cage at any time. Go get your gun. So I'd go in the morning early, shoot for like an hour, go to the gym, work out for however fucking long I wanted to. Most of the time I was sitting there bullshitting with Triple S though. And then go upstairs and I'm like, what are we doing today? You'll never guess. House runs. Sweet. Let me get my gear on. And it was awesome. It was so singularly focused. But I also look back, I was so focused on my job that 100% everything else was being sacrificed, for sure, when it came to allotting my time.
People are like, and I said this sounds horrible at face value, but your family was
100%.
second.
Yeah.
Was a second priority.
Yeah, I will never. I won't blame the military on the demise of my first marriage, but it had a hand in it, for sure. So, you recognize that you're out of balance. When are you going to focus on getting yourself back into balance?
But that's Jordan. Jordan is my metrics.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, you're flying off the hinges here.
But when will you slow down? I guess is what I'm saying. Because I've been asking myself this question: like, where do I want to arrive at? Where I start? If you list your priorities, where you're like, you know what, I'm now going to move another one up to the top, or re-rack and stack the priorities, because obviously we're not going to live forever. Our bodies are probably not going to be serving us amazingly well as we get older due to the mileage on them. You more than me. You're like the fucking $1 million man over here, half metal and unobtainium. Your face yesterday when I said I had never had a surgery, I wish I had taken a picture of it. You're just like, what?
Well, technically, you did have one surgery when you were shot.
No, I didn't. They left it in.
The round is still in your leg?
Yeah.
They didn't do anything. They
Bro.
didn't have to sew you up?
So we're on target, and the little birds came in and flew some people out who were far more injured than me, because there was gunshot wounds, there was wounds from a breaching charge that went off that people were too close from. There was, I think...
Under fire. They breached under fire.
It was a blue on blue. There was a lack of communication, or not a lack of communication. It wasn't communicated. So we were, if you were look at it like a traditional house, just to make it easier for people, instead of using, fucking black side, white side, red side, all that stuff.
That still confuses me.
Are you serious? It's not that hard.
We got away from that, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, it was just a north.
Yeah, that's the
east,
easier way
south,
to go.
yeah.
So let's just assume you were looking at a house, though. It would have the walkway up to the front door and the driveway. That's the side I was on. We'll just call it the front of the house. The back of the house, and it was surrounded by walls, and there was adjoining structures. They had made entry on the back side of the house, and it was, I didn't make it to the inside of the house, so I was kind of just told this, but the entrance they used in the rear led directly towards the door, the front door that we were on the side of.
Like a hallway from rear door
Basically
right to the
just
front.
a center-fed hallway directly to the door. And if I was looking up at the structure, so the door was right here, the window that the guy shot me from was right here, and it actually looked like a very traditional house that had like a window that might be living room, a front door next to it, and then an extension that came out that would have been a garage. And I was just going to go to the corner and hold security. Evangelista was going to go up and put the breach on the door. So I was over the wall first, and I kind of just waited in the shadows, and we made our way up, and I just didn't want to turn my back onto the blacked out window, so I turned my head to look at it, and I fucking blasted from that window. That put me down, so they were returning fire from there, but we did know is that they were in a gunfight on the inside. A breaching charge was put up, and there was an element making its way down the hallway. I think it was a C6 strip charge, full length of the door, which I think it actually might have been a metal door too. It doesn't even matter though. I mean, it almost vaporized a guy's arm. He was really close to it. It peeled back the Kevlar on one of the assaulters' helmets. Like that's how much of the blast they absorbed. Point in all that is, I was one of the less injured people. So there was like little birds coming in, pulling them out. I got thrown in the back of a Bradley fighting vehicle, driven to the green zone. They put me on a stretcher, and I was in a room with another guy at the squadron. And the doc came in. I think it was a doc. Fuck, I don't know. Could have been a physician's assistant. But they came in and they're like, hey, you know, how you feeling? I'm like, it's quite painful. I'd like some morphine. Because I was fucking scared to take morphine in the field. Because I watched too many goddamn movies where if you like give yourself the auto-injector Surette, which of course I had some, yeah, I thought I was immediately going to like start finger painting like fucking elephants with my blood on the wall or something. Yeah, and come to find out I have a genetic abnormality where opiates don't work very well on me.
No kidding.
Yeah. So
it's not like you can test that until you test it.
No, so the guy juices me with some morphine, and I was like, that's awesome. I would like some more, please, because I'm still at an 11 out of 10 on pain, so they give me more. And they started talking to me. You know, so they CAT scanned me first, X-rayed it, and then the doc was saying, so it doesn't appear like your leg is broken, because it wasn't. It missed my femur by about 1/4 of an inch. My largest complaint at the time was my ankle, because it had interacted with my sciatic nerve, so it felt like my ankle had been laid. What's the movie Misery, where the dude gets hobbled?
The block.
So that's what it felt like. When I got to the Green Zone Hospital, that was my #1 complaint. It was my ankle. So they actually, like, super gingerly, like, they cut my shoe off, and they were looking at it, and they x-rayed it, and they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Your ankle's fine. But it was that neuropathic, it was just, it sucked for like 1.5 years, that neuropathic pain. But the doc comes in and he goes, okay, so there's a bunch of frag in here. We can see the slug. He goes, we can start getting this stuff out. And I had the wherewithal just to be like, what does that necessarily mean? He goes, well, there's ferrous metal in your body, so we're not going to be able to MRI you. What we'll do is we'll take an X-ray, intubate you, throw you on your stomach, you know, knock you out, and start slicing and just pulling things apart and pulling the metal out. Like, is there another option here? And he goes, yeah. He's like, honestly, you know, it didn't break the bone. The nerve damage is what it is. Your body will encapsulate it in calcium. It'll move around a little bit. You'll need to go get it imaged from time to time. But there's probably no danger in leaving it in there. I'm like, why the fuck didn't you leave with that? So that's the one I went with. So I never had a surgery.
You know, automatically I'm thinking this is a documentary where we go in and we get it out. The whole documentary, 45-minute documentary about getting this out.
No. Yeah, so, yeah, no surgeries whatsoever.
Interesting.
And it was a wild ride, man. So I think they daylight choppered us from the Green Zone to Balad. And then one of the worst experiences, if not the worst experience of that whole thing, was the C-17 flight from Balad to Germany.
Without painkillers.
Oh, I had painkillers. Because it was the JSOC dudes that were on that bird, we had a JSOC doctor that was assigned to us. I had everything.
SRT.
What didn't have that level of care was every other stretcher in that aircraft. And it was full. Front to back, side to side. And the writhing pain noises from the rest of the people. I actually asked the doctor, I'm like, can you put me out? Please, just fucking put me out. Then you land in Germany. And I'm on a stretcher, and you're received by people like with the best intentions of the world, but these young women were offloading the stretchers, and they were struggling with the weight of the people that were in the stretcher. And they put us on a fucking school bus and drove us on the Autobahn to Landstuhl. Did you have that experience?
Yeah.
Which, one of the guys who got hurt was in like the full erector already, and it's a bouncy road. And they almost dropped him. In the stretcher too. Those two portions for me, the airplane flight and that ride to the hospital, were the fucking worst.
In what year again was this? 2005.
Yeah.
It got better and it got better.
Yeah, I hope so.
It got better. You probably know this guy, Johnny. Great dude. He was a Naval Academy officer from like Boston, thick accent. He was shot through the hand in Iraq.
Okay.
And basically didn't treat him, and somebody put him on a civilian flight without any pain meds or anything for an infection. And similar to you went to Portsmouth. You're like, hey, I'm in a lot of pain. He went to, what's the Naval Hospital in San Diego? Balboa, right?
Yep.
Went to Balboa, and he's like, yeah, I'm in a lot of pain. My hand's starting to really swell. They're like, what happened? He's like, I was shot in the hand in Iraq. And they're like, no, that's not possible. You'd be on a medevac. He's like, no, they put me on a flight. Unless you're not. And so I know that incident right there led to a lot of changes, and NSW's like, all right, we've got to get our act together.
Yeah.
They put their own sort of procedures in place, and dude, my set aside being on a C-17 with nothing but casualties, and then you're looking at those casualties, and you're like, hey, I might have 30 holes in my leg, but goddamn, like, that's a nub right there.
Dude, there was a guy. It was. I have very bizarre memories because, so in the green zone, I kept asking him for more morphine, and eventually a doctor came in and he goes, "Listen, here's our height weight scale. You are at the absolute fucking apex of what I can give you. Like, you may still be feeling pain, but if we juice you more, your heart might stop because it's just a central nervous system suppressant."
Yes.
So they were giving me stuff to help me sleep, and I would have these weird moments of like waking up. So I woke up in Balad, and I think like the CG was standing at the end of my bed, and I swear I just looked. I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And then I went back to sleep.
which is appropriate response for general. That's
I'm sure I said something. You know me well at this point. I'm sure I said something fucking ridiculously sarcastic. But it's like, what are you going to do to me? Like, I get a fucking free pass. I'm going to say to you whatever the fuck I want to. And I vaguely remember, like, I was the one who notified my wife. They had just juiced me, and they handed me a fucking phone and a card where, you know, you had to put in, it was like a calling card. I was so juiced out of my mind, I couldn't even hit the buttons. And so I had to have somebody else do it for me. And the conversation, I vaguely remember, it's like, hey, you know, I said I was going to be home in like 60 more days, but I'll be home pretty soon. I got hurt last night. And I remember her saying, what happened? I'm like, oh, I got shot. She goes, like in the face? I'm like, no, not like in the face. But like, and so she notified my parents. But yeah, it was so wild. The things that I remember and the things that I don't remember. Crazy experience for sure.
So there was we didn't have morphine on the rooftop because we had given it back to the corpsman who redeployed about a week earlier.
You're talking about when Mike
was killed. So he was actually...
How close... Hold on, you guys had given your morphine... Because you were almost ready to rip out of there, right?
Bro, you talking about bad senior enlisted leadership and just junior guys. We knew we only had like 3 or 4 more missions. We're like, we're good, we're fine. If there was anyone that was experienced, like you or a Jim, they would have been like, no, wait. Understand you're redeploying your sign for this.
Yeah.
You're going to sign it over to me, even though that may not be illegal, but we'll have a custody chain on it. The guys are not going out with their morphine. But here's the saving grace. I went for that those little pockets that were on the ankle.
Yeah.
And it wasn't there. It's actually a good thing it wasn't. It was fucking painful as hell, but it kept me coherent in the fight and making decisions, which was required at the time. But I eventually make it to Balad in a small world. A close family friend, a family we had grown up with in Menlo Park, their son was an Air Force surgeon. I'd already gone through one surgery in Al Qaim, and then on to Balad where they did some other stuff.
Were they just dragging frag out of your body?
Yeah. And since some of the holes, I think they were packing them already.
Yeah.
So he comes and visits, and he's going to call my mom. He's like, okay, he's okay. But he takes a picture with me, and they were filling me with fluids, dude. I look like the Michelin Man, just overweight. And so my mom gets this picture, and she's sending it out to everyone. And finally I get home, she shows me the picture of it. I'm like, Ma! I'm like,
God,
you have to approve all pictures through me before they go out. It was it looked like for 6 months I'd been eating just candy in Iraq. It was pretty embarrassing. That's my mom. God bless her. I love her, but she always chooses like the worst photos where you're like your eyes are blinking.
Fuck, that's wild. How did you guys end up getting off that roof?
So I told you, I still have not confirmed this. The wildest thing is we never did an after action. They never sat the 3 of us down and said, hey, as hard as it is, let's talk about this. There's some lessons that need to be learned. They never did it. And I sat down with Doug Wallace and Benny Olson.
Yeah,
you know Benny.
I deployed with Benny in 2010.
Love that
spectacular.
Guy. We did an after action almost 15 years to the day. And we talked through what happened and what we could have done differently. And this goes back to Jim, who you know, who'd written an after action. He went out with us, and the guy, of all 40 of us in that task unit who were inexperienced, to include Jocko didn't have much combat experience. He picked off in 48 hours. He went on one op for 48 hours with us. He picked off more in that 48 hours than all 40 of us combined did.
Yeah.
And he wrote an after action which was unfortunately hidden away that we all should have read immediately because he predicted a grenade on the roof scenario and suggested that we switch up our tactics.
Did he really?
Yeah. So the emitter went off. I think that's probably a fail-safe, like with the blast and concussion of that proximity and that magnitude. It shut off. And so while I was cycling that back on.
So for people listening, an emitter is the radio that we were using at the
internal
time.
communications, pretty ruggedized. I had to crawl over to an Iraqi, had the Motorola, and called over to the mutually supporting overwatch position.
How close were you guys to the nearest friendly position?
The mutually supporting overwatch position was probably about 500 meters away, if not less.
Okay.
I think it was less, maybe like 250. And, when we say mutually supporting, sometimes it's not.
On
all
paper,
that.
I'm sure it looked great.
Yeah. You draw the little sniper arrows.
Yeah, I'm sure it looked great on paper for mission approval.
But we had the problem in the building, and it seemed like it took ages for that element to get to us. And, Benny was the only one that was, trying to find the word, mobile. And he
the
picked
least
up,
injured.
Least injured. He picked up Mikey's Mark 48. I think we had the 48s by then.
Yeah.
And
Machine gun.
Just laid it down without. He didn't come off that trigger. I've never seen. And he's a small man.
He's shorter than this table.
He's got beloved because he was competent tactically, professionally, and he was just a good leader.
He's not as short as Nick Norris, but he's short.
Yeah, I just talked to Nick Norris. Well, I owe him a call. But Benny, I saw Benny's face, and I've never seen Benny's face like that. I mean, it was just pure rage, and I think he went through that belt without coming off. And so he kept firing, and finally the Iraqis came because they ran off the roof. They came back on. They fired. It took for ages, and then it was a Bradley. They threw us in the back of a Bradley with Mikey's body.
Those guys are so badass. They will fucking drive those things absolutely directly into the hornet's nest.
Down roads known to have IEDs.
Oh, for sure. That's rough, man.
I'd love to say other SEALs bailed us out of bad situations. It was always the Army. It was always the Army or the Marine Corps. Infantry.
If you think about the size of the elements, especially the conventional team that you would go out there with, it would be almost impossible for a SEAL unit in the field to rescue another SEAL unit.
Yeah, it's almost like carrying a thing of gasoline as a fire. Like, hey, I'm coming.
Well, we got 16 people and we're split up over 4 locations. So we'll send you a rescue force of 3 people because we got to keep somebody. Well, actually, it's going to be 2 because we're never going to be by ourselves. So we got 2 guys coming your way, or we have 5 M1A1s and 4 Bradleys. It's like I'll take the tanks for $500, Alex. You know what I mean? Like it's impossible for a SEAL unit to rescue another SEAL
Unless
unit.
you're doing a squadron-sized operation, you're not on the offensive unless it's a point target.
Correct.
I think there's a misnomer. Like if you've ever seen a SEAL platoon do an IAD, they go Winchester, which means out of ammo, pretty rapidly. That's why the most, would say 90% of the time it's break contact and get out of there. Yeah. If it's a larger force.
How the fuck did we get on talking about Iraq?
Wounded. I don't know, man.
I don't either.
My brain is so balance.
Yeah, when are you going to stop?
So my wife.
That's how we got on this.
My wife laughs. She's like, because I keep saying 5 years. I'm thinking 5 years I'll be able to retire you.
So you've been saying that for about 5 years,
yes.
is my guess.
And she's just like, before I can even get it, she's like, no, hold on, let me guess. 5 years. And so I did tell her by the time I'm 50, what we're doing now, I'm like, I will ratchet that back with the adventure skydives and all that, and put my body on the line to where. And I don't know about you. You may go till 55. I will still do a jump here and there, but I'm like, my intent is to get the younger generation of SOF, special operations, into legacy, and these are guys who are going to want to do their expeditions and will tell their stories.
How old are you now?
45.
Same. When's your birthday?
November 11.
Okay, so I'm slightly older than you by 1 month and better. I guess it would make it. How much do you think about your mortality? You ever look at the age you are now and wonder how much you have left and what you still want to accomplish?
It's definitely much more prevalent than when we were on the field of battle.
Yeah, I never thought about it.
Yeah. So no. You know what it is this month alone, you've seen all these like actors and whatever high-profile people are dying in the age of 60. Like it's insane how many people are dying.
Dude,
at
it's
60.
funny that you say that because I didn't used to think much about like, well, how much time do you have left? And I had that thought yesterday as I was scrolling through a news feed, and I realized like every day for a week. I mean, obviously people are dying every second of every day. I get that. But yeah, it was the ages and scrolling through it. And then again, Glover does most of my math because he's my quant, but I can do some basic arithmetic. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm a lot closer to that number.
You know what? It was Ray Liotta that kicked it off for me.
What age
recently.
did he die at?
Oh, he had to be in his 60s. I think he had to be in his 60s. But Ray Liotta also, I think he drank and smoked like a chimney.
He probably burned it hard at both ends.
So that was shocking. I'm like, we grew up on like Goodfellas. We grew up on these guys, and now they're all perishing.
When did you? I ask you this question because I'm going through this phase. I think of, and my dad's coming out to visit us for Christmas, and I love doing episodes with him, and I'm curious because he's in his 70s. Like, how much time does he spend thinking about his mortality, or just time? It's a little bit morbid to say it in mortality's perspective, but like I'm fascinated to ask him, what is left that you want to accomplish in life? Like, what are you looking forward to in your phase of life? When did you start looking at a calendar as this like, holy shit, this thing is ticking away? Because I didn't think that way in my teens or 20s or my 30s, none of that. And I just turned 45 this year, and now I'm like,
You know, my mom sent me an email, or it might have been a text, because I called my dad my old man. Love my great father, man. I could not have been in want. But she texted me and she's like, "Hey, don't call him old man anymore." So I think that's bothering him. But you know, the apple does not fall far from the tree. But I see it in my dad. He's assessing his life and whether this guy's accomplished a lot.
Yeah.
This guy came from very little and he accomplished a lot. His kids are all doing good stuff, and he's still just this is where I got it. I'll be highly critical of myself as he is highly critical of himself. But I've told him at one point, I'm like, hey man, you did good. Like, I know you're not done, but you've done well. If you can look back and be like, damn, I accomplished a lot. I raised a good family. They're all in a good place. My daughter's not on a pole. Like, life is good. But I can understand that you can't. You said it the other day, and I know it was Tony Stark said it in that film. Not an ounce of money ever bought a.
You're absolutely murdering this.
Did I?
No amount of money will buy you any second of time. Or something. I also fucked it up.
But
not as bad as you did, but.
So that's why when I contacted you about Legacy Expeditions, I'm like, crap. I'm like, we've got to get going now, because we only have about 5 to 10 years of pushing our bodies.
Speak for yourself. Like I said, you're the $1 million man.
Yeah, I think I'm done. I think I'll be supporting you and Nick. Which, dude, I have no problems.
Yeah.
You know I want to do the space dive, but Nick's like, no, I got that one. And Nick is more deserving, given what he's done for skydiving than.
Quite frankly, he can have that. I mean, well describe what you're talking about.
I'm going to be his alternate, and if somebody
you wouldn't pass the physical to fucking play JV softball right now. All right,
so I guess I need you. What's the ice skater that got curbed? Or
Tanya Harding.
Tanya Harding. So I made Tanya Harding Nick in a parking lot. But
if they threw you up against a medical screening to go into a high troposphere jump,
they would be laughing.
Alarms would be going off in the building, and they would cart you out of there.
They would be laughing. So Joe Kittinger just passed away. I believe he was 93 or 94.
94, I believe.
94. He was what we call the space diving OG, the original gangster.
Yeah.
You think Felix and Alan Eustace are badass? They did this in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Or when did Felix do it? 2012-ish?
I think about 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
12 or 13, yeah.
So Joe Kittinger did this in 69.
And had a failure in his one of his gloves, like his hand was swelling up. Yeah, the modern era people had many technological advantages that Kittinger did not, and that didn't stop him.
No. That guy broke a lot of records.
No, he gets full cowboy points. Not to say anything negative about the other people, but if you look back at what he was able to do with the equipment at that time, I think it's a feat that exceeds what you're able to do with the leading edge of science and technology like Felix and
two different ballparks, man.
Yeah.
Two different ballparks. But if we can get Nick up there to do like 140,
What is the record?
This is why I think Alan was at, I'll look it up, but
Alan was the
135
Google guy, right?
He was the Google guy.
Well, see, but it gets interesting. So Felix went up and he jumped out without a drogue.
To set the speed record as well.
He set the speed record. He set the altitude record. Alan, I know he was he did it very quietly too. But he went up and he was a drogue-assisted free fall the entire time, which is incredibly smart given the guy's skydiving experience versus Felix. But we'd have to figure out where Nick would fall into all that.
135,000. Well, basically 136.
Okay. Yeah,
But here's what I love about Nick, and it goes to what you talk about. Like, we're not sociopaths. When I'm like, hey, we're going to go jump from 41,000 feet. Nick's like, whoa. Let's talk about the oxygen piece. He's it's not risk averse at all. He's going to mitigate risk. So if it's not to his standard, Nick's not going to do it.
Yeah, that's how you live to see another day.
So, but DV, who's the rigger on 777, he's a last minute ad, great dude, never served in the military. He was part of the consulting team for Alan Eustace for his record attempt. And Nick said if he's going to do it, he's going to do it similar to Alan Eustace, where they basically attached his back to the balloon rather than a
They
capsule.
lifted the dude up in a spacesuit in a balloon. Yeah. And then,
That's a long ride, dude. I think it's like a 2.5 hour to 3 hour ride.
Yeah. Would Nick want to do it with a drogue assisted or free fall?
Oh, he said he wouldn't do it without a drogue. He said watching Felix, he's like, that guy's he's crazy.
Yeah.
He said that's ill-advised.
God, I wish Felix had done a gainer off the end of that. It would have been a fatality, but what a fucking sick exit that would have been.
Because he blacked out.
He did not black out.
Are you sure?
Yes.
But they had a pro word to cut the camera.
100% they did.
Yeah.
And they smartly. So what ended up happening is it's fascinating to watch. He went off almost feet first because I think he was just slowly trying to transition to his belly. But if you watch the footage that was on his suit,
I don't think he had the maneuverability.
No, he
to do
didn't
that.
because there's no fluttering of the suit. So if he had done a backflip and like given the horns to the camera on the way by, it never would have stopped. And I think he probably, because it would have accelerated and he would have died. He ended up on his back spinning, but he was able to correct for it. But he wasn't able to correct for it until there was the wind resistance where the body inputs actually had the desired result.
Was he on his back or was he on his side?
He was on his back, spinning on his back in a spacesuit that did not have a crazy amount of flexibility.
Yeah.
And there's footage of him in like the Arizona tunnel flying that suit around, which...
Oh, at Eloy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the... I've been going to that tunnel for so long. I was augmenting with like the bundle courses and the green team courses, and they were still hanging drywall at that facility, and we were in there fucking around in that tunnel when it was first coming on. It was definitely not a boondoggle of government dollars. We definitely didn't get like 30 to 40 hours for 3 instructors every time that we went out there. But yeah, that would... if anybody's going to be able to pull that off with the proficiency and the knowledge, it would be Nick, for sure.
Yeah, by the way, I spent pretty much the whole month of November in the iFly at Virginia Beach. I don't want to say Ray's last name, but Ray's
awesome. He was working at the Arizona tunnel.
Yeah. So he said, hey, what's your goal for the month? I said, to tell Andy Stump to go fuck himself.
Well, it's never going to happen, though.
So
you're trash
we did,
in the air.
No. We got better, back flying, good to go. And we finally, got to sit flying. My toes were on top of Ray's toes.
Yeah.
And we were doing that. We're yelling, fuck you, Andy, the whole time. He's going to send me the clip. We'll post it. But it was
Don't
assisted.
make me again go online. I will put together the most epic fucking reel of you tumbling out of control, because it would be every exit you did in Iceland.
No, it was not.
I'll go to the fucking... I have it on my phone.
All my exits were that right there, looking at you.
They were not.
That's bullshit.
I literally... well, first off, I went out after you, and I'm like, fuck, I'm going to have to go fast because he's tumbling again.
No, it's not.
And then in
I
Arizona...
literally was looking at you giving the horns like that.
Just because you give the horns doesn't mean you're stable. You can do that in any rotational axis. And then there's the first training trip we did in Arizona, and every time we would let go, it would just be cartwheeling.
It was... Because we all went to sit flying, and I suck at sit flying.
So I was showing Leah these videos, and after like the third one, she would say like, "Is that Mike spinning off in space again?" I'm like, "You know it is. Why?" Even?
Well, I got some choice words for Leah.
So what the hell were you doing out in VB for a month? Visiting your kids?
Visiting my kids, and then also the Virginia Human Performance.
Oh, okay.
which runs, again, I'm going to butcher this, the Navy SEAL Foundation has done, they've set the bar with,
Is that Ollie's facility?
Alex, Oliver,
Yep.
goes by Ollie, retired SEAL. Basically, it's a 30-day rehabilitation program from cognitive to, of course, the physical therapy. They put you on a diet plan. Your meals are made for you. Sleep studies. Even speech therapy and recall.
Really?
Yeah. This is something that Ollie needs to. He needs to help the Green Beret community. He needs to help the AFSOC community.
I was going to
the
say
MARSOC community.
That needs to be put out far and wide.
Ollie has the template, and Ollie should be bigger than certain other companies out there that we know in that space. If anyone knows this guy, he's quiet. He doesn't want the spotlight. In fact, he used to scare the shit out of me. Like, he's not very approachable at our old place. Not a guy that I'd go up to and speak to, but he's one of the most genuine dudes. And he even held meetings with all the team guys, but it's all NSW personnel, whether they were SEAL or not. And some of the talks, the roundtable talks, were just tearjerkers.
Yeah.
But for Ollie to do something like that and open up the table, it was cathartic for a lot of us. And for a guy that's so respected as a warrior, when they do that, they set the stage, like everyone else followed. So,
How many hours did you get in the tunnel?
probably around 5.
It's not bad.
So when I went, I told Ray, it's like, prep me for AFFI, because I want my AFFI.
You do?
Yeah, because
Why?
if we're going to start training vets, that's the one thing.
How many jumps do you have?
I'm over close to 800 now.
Okay, so you meet the criteria for AFFI.
Yeah, so
You certainly don't meet the skill requirement, but
so
it's relatively difficult, right?
by the end of that month, I was all over the tunnel.
Yeah, but were you doing that intentionally? Because I've seen you all over the tunnel too, and you were doing everything you could to control yourself. So that's not a metric for shit.
I'm done here. Call my agent.
AFFI it's challenging, man. It's super rewarding, and I always love teaching AFF, but it is
Depending on who you have. And you're
it's
going to go get one of the best instructors. Like,
it's a challenging...
Ray and Nick are like, we're going to put you with somebody challenging, man.
Yeah, but it's a challenging learning medium. You can't talk. You got about 60 seconds. Mm-hmm. They're probably not going to die if they follow some basic criteria, but things can go bad really fast. It was one of my favorite things I used to do is go back out and augment the green team courses. Yeah. Because, there's AFFI, which is Accelerated Freefall Instructor. Then there's MFFI, Military Freefall Instructor. They're largely the same qualification. Different standard. And on the military side, it adds complexities that the civilian side doesn't see. Mostly what I mean by that is equipment. The rear-mounted rucks, not that big of a deal. But those front-mounted rucks, holy shit. And MFFI is a 1-to-1 ratio. Versus AFFI, which is
3-to-1 or 2-to-1.
2-to-1 for the first 3 jumps, I think, or 4, and then it goes down. But I loved it. I mean, that's where I got to know Lou really well. So we would come back and augment the courses.
Lingless?
Yeah, we'd come back and augment the courses all the time. But you would probably enjoy it, but your level of currency would need to stay relatively high.
Yeah.
So you would need to jump quite a bit.
So Ray put the harness on.
Yeah.
And we were doing practice pulls, flipping over, getting on the right side. So that alone, that 1 month where I had 20 minutes every day for at least 4 to 5 days each week was just, my skill went from here.
Funny how it works, right?
Yeah. So that's the other thing too, is we get into this, man. I love fucking jumping. There's no greater view. And I think as we get more vets, especially amputees, and as you're at like 10,000 feet and you look at them and just pre-plan, like just fucking yell. Let it out, dude, at 10,000.
Why would they yell?
Release the stress, man. I'm fucking yelling the whole way down, dude.
You are?
Oh, fuck yes.
Why?
It's a stress relief. And then especially under canopy when you do 360s, it is fucking.
Who are you yelling at?
I'm just letting it out, dude. That's
You're yelling at the universe?
Yes.
God, you're fucking weird. I've never once yelled in free fall.
But no, we got to get more vets into this thing, and I think it is a great sport for a lot of guys.
Well, I think we need to add. So we have talked about when it comes to the legacy expeditions and making it enduring, because the 777 will be a very small group of people, which will be cool.
Yeah.
But they're all more experienced, various levels of experience, but experienced enough to go on the trip. Making that a larger initiative will be great, but I think you need to add, or we need to add, on top of teaching them, we need to figure out a way to make sure that they stay current.
Yes.
Because you will fuck yourself up jumping if you don't stay current. And in exposure to it, like, let's be honest, the barrier to entry on the civilian, well, actually even on the military side of the house, I mean, I guess you get more jumps. You get substantially more jumps. But on the civilian side of the house, it's 8 jumps.
You get more jumps in a very condensed period of time. So
Yeah.
you may not jump for 3 months, or well, if you're on deployment, you're not jumping for 4 months.
Yeah. The initial qualification, though, is going to take you a few weeks. I mean, MFF out in Yuma used to be a month.
Yep.
But you're going to jump at night. You're going to jump equipment. You're going to jump a weapon, which is obviously a job requirement. So you don't have that on the civilian side. But you could start AFF on a Friday and be done by a Sunday. Yep. That is a license if you're not careful to go fuck yourself up. So I would want to add an enduring piece to not only the exposure, but, and I don't know what it would be, basically a fund that people could draw from to make sure that they maintain their currency. You know
right
what I mean?
now, geographically, and I've told this to Jordan, I'm like, I need to be somewhere closer to a drop zone. We've got San Marcos, Spaceland San Marcos, which is a great drop zone. So it's still an hour and a half.
Okay, so there's
drive.
nothing that close to Austin?
And there's nothing that close to Kalispell.
Dude, there's 0 in Kalispell.
So I was joking. Whether it's Heber Valley or Montana,
Tooele has got
we've got to open our own.
DZ?
Yeah.
Do we, though?
Or just, it's the problem with on the road. I know Leah would probably complain if you were gone all the time.
I'd bring her with me.
Yeah.
I don't have a goddamn fur missile that
my,
wants to eat everybody.
I need to retire my wife.
You don't need to retire your wife. I'm not cutting that out.
Not retire my wife in the sense of get rid of her. No, so I've got a dog.
You have a fur missile that wants to eat everything except for you and your wife, and it's problematic when you want to travel. And I told you the solution is get a fucking Frenchie.
Yeah. Jordan missed out on Iceland because of that one.
Yeah. But we should go back.
Oh,
that was one of the most...
It was a mission incomplete.
Dude, I've talked with Denver. Like, we want to go enduro riding through the interior. Like, you know that... was it the first day that we jumped in where we stayed in those... I want to call them a teepee, but that's not correct.
That was
a yurt?
Thor's Mark. First off, we are not getting a Fiat RV again.
What?
That thing, I thought the wheels were going to fall off. It
Dude,
was going to be
Pussy
National
Wagon,
Lampoon.
the Pussy Wagon made it all over Iceland, man. That thing was good to go. I got some tickets. Maybe you got some tickets.
Under my name and my credit card. You and Denver, I'm like, hey,
I paid him at the return.
But you know, that trip, we have to go back and...
Well, where we jumped in that, it was the first day, right? That's where we stayed the first night, because that's where
It was the first night, second jump, but the first jump,
But my point, I was looking at Google Earth, and that particular road, and it was all it was crazy. We were fording, what's the fucking word? Crossing rivers in vehicles that were lifted, and drivers literally saying, hey, take your seatbelt off in case this gets swept away. That was one of the main entries to going totally towards the interior. Can you imagine doing that on like a dual sport motorcycle? Because Denver and I both have KTM 890 Adventure R's up in Montana.
Yeah.
We ride them all summer.
Mike borrowed one of those, right? For
Glover, actually, one of the last times I saw him in Kalispell, he was picking up his bike. He didn't go with the KTM, but it's like anything. There's a different brand's version of it. But dude, you could do like fucking 10 days, and it'd be like the surface of Mars. Like of course, you could stay on like dirt roads and stuff, but I want to go back and do that. I want to go back and do an actual proper like jump trip, because the cool thing is we did the whole ring road. We went clockwise on the ring road. We found this one place. We stayed in like hotels and Airbnbs. Dude, we found some of the coolest places ever tucked away that you would never find unless we had done that. It was
That's how you do it?
It was the perfect site survey. And then as we're flying home, we fly over Greenland, and I'm looking down, and I started looking up Greenland. I'm like, we need to go to Greenland. And then you came up with the idea of, probably wasn't your idea.
Everything is my. I'm the idea guy behind this company. You just do the media.
I just correct the ideas. It's fine. I fucking bring reality back into the conversation.
Don't confuse your enthusiasm with your capability.
Could that be our tagline? Legacy Expeditions? Don't confuse your
Right now, it's like, what is it? No one ever did anything great by playing it safe.
Yeah. God, that's a great tagline, though.
We're done the second somebody gets majorly fucked up.
You think?
No, but it's not a good look.
So that's the
If
question.
people saw the risk mitigation from the ATAC system, everything we've done, we did over 800 jumps amongst this team alone to prepare for 777, and the jumps aren't even the biggest risk.
So on that, somebody gets substantially hurt during the 777. Do we stop or keep going?
It depends on the severity of the mission, or of the injury. But we have 3 guys.
Hospitalization.
Yeah. So there are 3 guys that can be peeled off outside of the expedition team that would stay with that individual to make sure that he gets back. If it's me, if I break my femur in multiple places, I expect you guys to keep going.
I'll leave you on the drop zone and not call 911 or whatever the number is in whatever country that we're in.
So no, even if there's a death, the guys are going to continue on, and I may have to peel off on that one to deal with that. Or if Jim stops breathing on an airline, just leave him, let the airline deal with it, the U.S. Embassy, and we'll continue on.
Sorry, Jim.
We are going to be doing Jim is 73 years old. We're going to be doing the mirror test. Like, he's good.
Yeah. He gets no Ambien. That might just shut it down.
He did 3 jumps on Tuesday. Or no.
Of last week?
Of last week. And he was, like, Dan Myrick, he did 2. And Dan's like, I need 1 more for film. And Jim won't say no.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Nick. I'm like, we're putting him through the ringer.
It shouldn't be that bad. He is a seasoned tandem passenger. He would actually be a tandem master's absolute dream.
And he is a skydiver.
Yeah.
And they're using the
pad.
The what do they call it? The airbag.
Yeah. I've actually never used that. It's a good idea for sure, because I may or may not have fucked a few people up on landing. But
well, we're going to have to use that with passengers for legacy expeditions. Why wouldn't you? It's just another risk mitigation.
It's the same thing. If that technology exists and you choose not to use it, you're not making good decisions when it comes to analyzing and assessing the risk. Okay, so we are, what's the date today? It's the 13th. When do you leave for Punta Arenas?
15 days.
And you're going there a day early to do a site survey?
Yeah, if you want to adjust your flights, we're going to go to Skydive Andes.
I'm going to spend an additional day with Leah. You guys let me know how it goes.
Jordan is going to watch this, and now...
Life's about the choices that you make, Mike.
Yes, it is. We're going to do a site survey there, and then Nick and I are going to make sure that all the vehicles are prepped to pick guys up when they arrive in Punta Arenas.
So we go Punta Arenas. There is some requirements to be given permission to go to Antarctica.
PCR tests.
We fly to Antarctica. What is it? We have a 6-day window?
Yeah.
That we can't do anything, right?
We may get 1 fun jump in on the 6th.
Yep.
Weather dependent. But then the 9th is when we're trying to do our official jump.
Yep.
And it's go from there.
So we'll go from there. I'm assuming the flight returns to Punta Arenas, and then where do we go from there?
Straight on to LATAM Airlines.
Yep.
And to Santiago.
Okay.
Jump in Santiago. Straight to Miami, which Spaceland Clewiston, the owner, God bless him, he's not open for the day we're supposed to be there. He's like, we've got you boys.
What day are you planning? Because honestly, if people knew about it and they live in that area, I think it would be kind of cool if they showed up to support.
Absolutely. So we are going to have a team in the United States similar to how we ran operations. It's like a joint operations center. Well, not joint, but an operations center that will be on social media updating people of where we're at in the journey. Please come join us. Same thing with Perth. I know there's people have been hitting us up from Australia.
I've been getting quite a few messages from Australia.
When are you going to be there? Please. Yeah. But shout out to Spaceland Clewiston. That guy he's like, whatever you boys need. Okay. He wasn't even going to charge us. Right.
What's the date, though, that we're expecting to be there?
We should be in Miami on the 11th.
Okay.
So, but people need to understand that's a window. In and out the same day. But we're getting in at like 5 a.m.
Okay.
Straight to Spaceland Clewiston.
Yep.
Jump there, back to Miami. Even the mayor of Miami may join us, not for a jump, but may join us to just watch. So there'll be some media in Miami because we've got a number of hours there, about 8 hours on the ground, to Barcelona. That drop zone is about an hour outside of Barcelona.
Yeah.
To Cairo, over the pyramids. Now there is a chance.
Probably not going to be visually appealing at all.
No. And I think we will do 13,000 on that just from a cinematography aspect.
On that note, what altitude are we going to jump at in Antarctica?
13.
Why?
Why wouldn't you?
I would like to exit the aircraft at 2,000 feet.
we've got the tandem, and I think the minimum for Nick's threshold.
I didn't say anything about a tandem. I said I would like to exit the aircraft at 2,000 feet.
Yeah, I think 8,500 is the minimum
for a tandem.
For a tandem.
I would like to exit the aircraft. I'll do a site survey. There's no fucking reason to go jump at negative 50 degree at 13,000 feet. It's still going to be like negative 35 at 2,000 feet.
Well, hard times make good men.
Just leave the door open. I might fall out.
There you go. I think for Chile, you do want to get as high as you can because that's going to be freaking gorgeous with the mountain ranges.
They're all going to be gorgeous, but there's only one that's going to have ridiculously sub-zero temperatures.
That's true. Cairo with the pyramids will be cool. Even we may be jumping out of the MI-17.
That would be sweet.
Which go down and right. I'm trying to remember when you get off an MI-17, don't go left. Or is it?
Oh, because of the tail rotor?
Yeah.
The tail rotor is on the starboard side of the aircraft, so you
go
want to get
left.
out. No. If you're facing the rear, oh my God, Mike.
I go the opposite fucking direction. Guys are going to be sleep deprived. Wherever the jump master is, he's going to stand on the opposite side.
We're going to tape an orange arrow on the ramp of that thing, like towards the ramp, and it's just going to go out at an angle so you can dive out, tumble, recover your stability, and then deploy your parachute.
Some of these guys have not jumped out of a helo.
It's not that much different depending on the forward
Just
airspeed.
hold.
Well, like I've jumped out of 47s and Blackhawks and smaller helicopters. If they maintain like 80 to 100 knot forward speed, it feels like a Twin Otter. It's not if they hover, which if we're going to do that, we need to make a pact right now that we don't tell the people on the helicopter that we are hovering, because that's amazing. So then Everest, they step out, and they're like,
they're grabbing for air.
Yeah.
And we saw experienced jumpers do that on the first jump in Everest. They were doing this.
That's why you always ask, hey, what's your forward airspeed going to be? Because that actually is more critical. That's the only thing that actually matters, because you're jumping out into relative wind or not.
So we had jumped from 60s before. So in Everest we were doing about 30.
Yeah, that's 30. Super low. So you're going to be mushy.
Hold.
Yep.
Just sit and hold. But no, I always like to set my buddies up for failure if it's going to make for good video. Of course.
The best video will be to have the MI-17 hover as much as possible. I'll just kind of slowly creep back to the edge and like film and tap everybody out and be like, yes.
I think you're first out, dude. You're first out on every jump, poised to get.
Nobody tells me how I exit. No one tells
poised
me.
To get video, or it's going to be a total loss.
You're poised. I'll go out on my back and still get the video.
But you're out first on every jump and everything. I think everything is a side door unless we get that C-130 for the final jump, and of course the MI.
What are we going to jump out of? So hold on, we're in Egypt, then to
Abu Dhabi.
Okay. What's the aircraft there?
I've got it written down. I think it's an Otter.
Okay, probably is.
But we are jumping into the Corniche, which is the beach right next to hotels. It's awesome. It's a big drop zone. I think it's like 150 by like 300, so it's fine. But
40% you won't make it.
I've made every fucking teasing. You know what I did?
That's actually not true. 100% not true.
That is totally true.
No.
That is
I will again
true.
go back through my footage. I will go back through my footage, and I'm going to create a fucking dossier called Mike's Lies.
I told Boots, because Boots is like, hey man, your accuracy is pretty good. I'm like, oh, don't fool yourself. I follow like Andy out, or I follow you out, and I just match your pattern.
That's all you gotta do.
And that's why I hit the DZ. Could I do it on my own? Yeah, I could. But you just follow the guy with the most experience. Unless he's hot dogging it, he's most likely going to hit the X.
Yep.
Just follow hit. And if you're within 20 meters, you're good.
So beach in Qatar, that'll be awesome. That'll be another one.
Qatar. This is a completely different country.
It's fine.
Working on your geography, but UAE.
I was thinking about
You just offended
World
our
Cup.
UAE's partners, but after that, they're going to take us to their basically their national fallen soldier memorial, and we're all going to have a moment of silence because for the listeners, they lost about 120 soldiers fighting Al Qaeda in Yemen.
Yep.
And then on to Perth, where our Australian soft counterparts are laying out the red carpet.
Thank God they don't like to drink.
That's the thing. Guys are going to be sleep deprived. I've requested a 1 liter, like in coolers for each guy.
And then we'll like beer. Beer is the worst.
Somebody's like, yeah, I think it was Glenn. Like, they'll have Fosters. I'm like, I don't think they drink Fosters enough.
Yeah, that's like a shitty marketing play. It's like the Outback Steakhouse.
I don't think you're look at us and they'd be like,
yeah. Is the sun bothering you, Mike?
No, it's not. Well, my bald head.
Check this out. This is the newest addition to the green screen.
And then we'll get some sleep in Australia. Let the guys have one night. And then
Will we though?
It's the 35-hour transit back to Tampa for that last jump.
I think the longest flight I've ever been on was from LA to either Sydney or Perth, and we were going to New Zealand. I came off of that thing shattered, full, just economy class, just stuck in a center row. That took a couple days, and I think I was in my early 30s when that happened.
The guys are. I don't think they know what they're in for, flying economy. But because of my hip, I've got to fly first class.
Yeah, of course. I totally understand. And your rank. It's more your rank than your hip.
I am the senior guy, aren't I?
You are, which means you're completely and utterly responsible for everything that happens.
That's why we brought the Canadian. Technically, he outranks me, which...
No, that's not how it works. That's not how that works at all.
I will say this. It is funny how we've fallen back into how we did business in the squadron.
Yeah.
That you, Nick, Boots, Fred are all leading the tactical, technical piece, and every time I open my mouth, you all look and you're like, so as we were saying, they're like, hey, go coordinate the flights, dude.
Yeah.
This is, I can't believe this is happening. Nick calls me, he's like, hey, is this happening?
Yeah.
He called me this morning, he's like, are we really doing this? I'm like, this is happening, dude.
When did you and I first start talking about this? I was trying to think about this the other day and I couldn't put a pin.
July, I think, of 2021.
Yeah. It's a lot like the coffee shop. We've been looking at PDFs for 2 years, and now we're like 6 weeks away from being able to open. And I will walk there and look at the building like, this is very hard to believe, actually. Much like this, we've talked about it and talked about it and talked about it, and then in 16 days, I'm on an airplane.
Do you realize how many people never experience that in life? Because they never accept, and I'm going to say, like, no. I always believe in the 99% to the 1%. 99% of people never experience this because they never put it on the line. They never accept the risk to this degree. They play it safe. They don't step into the arena. And I mean, what people don't realize is how many times I've done this and fucking failed. I've probably been part of 2 companies that were textbook failures. One with a bunch of team guys. And like those hurt, but you learn so much from those that fail.
Yeah.
And you learn, readjust for the next one. And you know, we won't be, people will think we'll be on cloud 9 when this thing's over.
No, I'm going to be on cloud nap.
Every time we accomplish something like this, I just go,
Yeah.
And it's just like, what's the next ridge line?
Well, the jumping is actually going to be the easiest portion. We are jumping at DZs with jump aircraft. That shit's not hard. It's everything that's going to,
especially at our skill level.
At some of our skill level, you know, like I said, I'm just going to do static cameras on these aircraft, and I'm only going to highlight your exit every time. And I won't even need to like really look through the footage. I'll just look for the one that's tumbling. Oh, your fucking wind tunnel time, your lies about your stability. It's the logistics that'll be hard. It's all the stuff that like George behind the scenes is putting together, the airplane tickets, the visas, the permissions. I mean, I'll speak about it super broadly, but let's just say that Antarctica is not easy to get in and out of. You know, there's a lot of things that are required to do that. Like that stuff to me is the hardest part. The jumping is going to actually be easy, but we'll be shattered at the end of it for sure.
You know, it's worth mentioning that the guy who is probably the most critical point of failure on this is not you or me or Nick or Fred or Boots. It's George Silva.
Yeah, agreed.
Not even a SEAL. SEAL support. He was a fleet corpsman with the Marine Corps. Got messed up in Nasiriyah. But without that guy, this thing would not have happened, putting all the puzzle pieces in place.
Yeah.
And that's why he's going to be the general manager of Legacy Expeditions.
So one of the reasons I'm messing around with this portable kit, and actually people ask me questions about it. So what I am using for audio right now, and I think this came from Dan.
This is the same audio that we're using for the documentary.
That's the first time I saw it. So we were in Arizona at the Complete Parachute Solutions training facility, and there's going to be a documentary around 777, and they were doing interviews, and they came up and they clipped on one of these DJI mics. And, you know, we both have a podcast, so I'm interested in things that are audio related, and I prefer a studio setting with the microphone because it's super controlled. But I was looking at it, I was like, son of a bitch, that audio is great. And I was thinking in my head, portable podcast kit. So I picked up 2 of the DJI, one box which has 2. I actually just ordered another one today. And the one thing I'm going to add to this is I found a YouTube video that reviews like lavalier mics.
Yeah.
So instead of having this clipped here, it can go in your pocket and it'll be just a super lightweight microphone. and I was able to find some. It's actually a European. They're like $13-14. So I ordered all that stuff today, so we can do 4 people, 4 audio feeds. These things actually can transmit to a camera, or it saves. Like right now, we're saving the audio to the puck, for lack of a better word, and then a GoPro that I'm using because I want to be able to do updates from the road. Plus, if we're going to have 5 or 6 days in Antarctica, I will go fucking crazy. So we might as well create as much.
And just release them after we get back.
Well, I'll do some stuff from Antarctica, but I would like to figure out, even if it's like a 30-minute update from the road, release an audio video file every day as we're going along.
So that's one of the last things we're looking at right now, I think, in Iridium Go.
That'll work for Antarctica, but I mean, honestly, Wi-Fi.
No, data, it's not going to send that much data. I think you can send a still.
I'm assuming black hole for Antarctica, unless my InReach Go works, the one that I use for hunting, and I can do text messaging.
So I know with Iridium Go, you can do Twitter. So you may be relegated to Twitter updates, and then the second we get in Miami, you can hand that off to Will, and Will can publish.
But the thing is, like, the podcasting isn't hard. Like, if we did a 30-minute episode, it would take me 5 minutes to pull everything together and just be able to update it. I'm just curious if I think it would be cool to update people as we go, like a 30-minute update from the road.
They may have to be audio clips.
Maybe.
Over Iridium. So the Iridium
No, it
Go...
won't have to be. That's only our only black hole in comms is going to be Antarctica.
Yeah. So the Iridium Go turns your iPhone into a satellite phone.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Anytime I can link my laptop up in any airport lounge or any of that stuff, I can upload the episode. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm assuming that Antarctica will be a black hole of comms. That's what I'm planning on, and what I'll tell friends and family, obviously. But yeah, beyond that, I think the more we could update people of what we have going on, the better it'll be.
Talk about the documentary coming out now.
Yeah, go for it.
So we've got Dropzone Everest,
which is called Mike's documentary.
So yeah, I knew you were going to come. Like,
Mike had an idea to create a documentary about himself.
No. It was not my idea, and we've already said that this is very cringe-worthy to watch yourself on camera. But
you said that. I'm interested to see Mike's documentary tonight.
This was stage one. In full transparency, we didn't go in with a plan to make a documentary on Everest at all. It was just like, we can't let this footage go.
How did you guys capture the footage?
So Elias Sakale, who is a big-time adventurer, he's climbed Everest multiple times, K2. He came along with me. He sort of archived the whole thing, and we didn't know what to do with it. And Dan Meyer's like, well, give me the footage and we'll do a chop on it with some other guys. But we had no plan going into Everest that we were going to create a documentary. So it was very much plugged together and a lot of lessons learned. 777, it's a completely different plan.
Yeah.
We basically have a storyboard. And the documentary for 777, let's be honest, the majority of the footage is going to be done after the actual expedition, interviewing you in your home, all the rest of the guys, the families of the fallen that we're representing. The one thing we fell short with this one is we jumped in honor of Extortion 17, the entire team. We did raise $200,000 for
Everest.
For Everest, we raised $200,000 for Special Operations Warrior Foundation, and hopefully this documentary will raise more. But we didn't get to interview the families because we just didn't have the budget to fly out and interview them. So fell short. But I think what I've learned is we are going to be good on the other side of the camera, interviewing and telling other people's stories, not it focused on us. Even though you and I will be in 777 with the piece because you're jumping in honor of Dave Hall. Mm-hmm. Was he a chief or senior chief?
I know he was a chief. I think he got picked up for 8, and he had a career hiccup that I think prevented him from putting it on. What people don't know, perhaps, in the military is that you can be selected for a different rank, but there's a little bit of time in between before you actually pin it on, and that time is called the time to fuck yourself if you get in trouble. Because they will change their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he got out as a chief.
Chief.
Yeah. But yeah, one of the, if not the most probably impactful mentor that I had in my first SEAL platoon, pre 9/11, nothing was going on. And the dude, I think he was probably on like 4th or 5th or 6th pre 9/11 workup, but just a wealth of knowledge, point man, sniper, comm guy, like the trifecta that you would want, pre 9/11 or post 9/11. Actually, those are all great qualifications. But yeah, it was crazy. He tried to go to the command on the East Coast. Didn't do. From my understanding, he had a personality conflict. One of the instructors, so he did not make it through the screening. But then went to a very small special mission unit and was just fucking kicking ass for like half a decade. And a shame, he ends up taking his own life. Just over a year ago. It's fucking catastrophic.
That's becoming all too current with some of these guys.
Yeah.
The one that shocked me was why am I blanking on his name? Master Chief. Got the guy who was on the West Coast, just beloved.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
This is my brain trauma coming out. I mean, the guy was just a mentor to everyone.
That, and then a guy that I served with at Gold, Tom. Like, that was actually relatively close in time, and both of those circumstances, it couldn't be more fucked up.
Where guys put their pride in the way of reaching out to their brothers, and guys will rally if you make a call and say, "Hey, I'm really fucked up."
Yeah.
I know there are a number of guys that will get on a plane, come out, and be like, "Okay, let's put a plan in place. Let's address this." But that's just it goes to show I got to be careful here. I mean, guys will internalize that shit.
Would you reach out and ask for help?
It's the hardest thing to do. I understand. Nobody wants.
Do you think you would though? Because
I didn't.
Because what you have to replicate is the headspace that they're in as well, and that's a tough one. Me asking you that question now is not actually necessarily fair because you're looking at it from a logical perspective.
So I had Dave, who was an officer from where we came, pull me aside and sort of give me a slap. And then at the time I was dating Jordan, and she put an ultimatum down, and then they connected me with a guy, Chris Free, who's helped more guys in the community from Hawaii, clinical psychologist. I mean, talked to me for a year and a half every week for 2 hours. And so no, I did not reach out on my own. I just continued to fucking spiral down the hole with alcohol.
Did you realize you were spiraling?
Oh, I ended up choked out on the sidewalk. And it was a realization. I'm like, oh, this is not going to end well. Somebody got a rear naked choke on me during a fight.
It's funny how that works.
Couldn't even hear him coming. Because the two friends were in front of me, and I didn't have my hearing aids in.
I was going to say, you're deaf as fuck.
Yes.
You wouldn't hear an elephant walking on fucking
Here's the funny thing.
Little jingle bells.
The 2 or 3 civilian guys that I had met in Austin that became friends watched it happen.
Yeah.
And then I woke up, and they were all looking down at me. And the first words out of my mouth, did I just get choked out? And they're like, yep.
But if you had to choose between getting knocked out or choked out, what are you going to go with?
Well, here's the thing. The guy laid.
Yes.
He was a practitioner.
That's what I'm saying.
He laid it, had my down.
It's the most gentle way to be violent with somebody.
He could have just dropped, and I would have hit my head.
Yeah.
So I saw him in the bar 2 weeks later, and somebody's like, "That's a guy." And I walked up, and the guy just goes like this. I'm like, "Buy you a beer, man."
Yeah.
And bought him a drink. We're not gonna have this conversation. Thank you for laying my head down. The guy's like, "Hey, man, I just wanted to de-escalate the fight."
Yeah.
And
since then, you started training jiu-jitsu.
No.
Dumbass.
Jiu-jitsu is life. Life is jiu-jitsu.
Also, people can find balance in that as well and just realize it's an awesome skill set and it allows you to do things like that if you would want to. It's a great exercise, emotionally and physically.
It's I got the privilege to meet Rafael Lovato, and I think, you got to have him on your podcast. I'll connect you. I was going to have him on mine. Reason I want is there's no more humble of a dude who could not be nicer. And I want to ask him, is jiu-jitsu an art form for you? Or is it a self-defense sort of mechanism? And I think it's both. It's not, it can be, it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive, but I think for him it's like an art form. And it's just can I perfect certain things?
Yeah, he's at a level.
Because he doesn't have to go beat the shit out of, there are certain MMA guys that that are just dicks that walk around fucking threatening everyone, or they know no one's going to step up to them. But that guy redefines, when you meet guys like that are at the top level of the world, you're like, okay, that's a warrior.
I wonder what his answer would be, because he is at a level of such refinement. And people just should look him up. It's, Rafael Lovato or Rafael, depending on where you're from.
And he had to step off the stage because of the medical condition.
Yeah,
So
I think he retired from competition not too long ago.
after this, was it ADCC?
Something like that, yeah. But yeah, one of the highest levels. I'm curious what he would say about that. I mean, for him, can it be used as self-defense? Yes. Is it a perfect self-defense tool? No. I mean, you need to add striking to it as well. You got to be able to manage distance, but
I have a feeling he can strike.
I'm sure he can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm absolutely sure that he can. Yeah, it's, yeah, you should take it up. Or just keep getting choked out.
The hips. So I box.
Yeah.
I love boxing because I suck at it.
Yeah.
Much like skydiving.
It's true. So true. You said it.
Hey, I've knocked out some guys before. I've been knocked out before. But yeah, I don't know where we're going with it.
I don't either. What do we got next? What do we have today? What do we have, a lunch?
We've got a lunch which I think we've already raised $25,000 for Folds of Honor.
Sweet.
That was set up by a guy named Tim Love, who reached out to us because of Joe Rogan. Happened to be with the Tampa Sports Commission, and the guy has helped set up everything. So the Joe Rogan effect, whatever you want to call it.
It's real.
We had 2 TF-160th weather guys reach out and they're like, hey, we want to do the weather for you. So now we're getting daily weather updates, which mitigates risk or our ability to deal with contingencies, knowing that like Spain is no longer viable. We've got to go to France.
Yep.
And George and the team back here are going to set that up.
How awesome is it we don't have to change all those tickets? Holy fuck.
George
You want to talk about a
has
logistical
lived.
nightmare.
George is going to go stage with the woman from the executive desk for American Airlines. So people know American Airlines they weren't willing to help whatsoever. Couldn't return our phone calls. George was hitting a roadblock for 3 days straight. I talked to 15 different people in American Airlines. I finally got a woman named Missy, and I'm like getting frantic, and she can hear my voice because this would doing the tickets for 16 people.
Yeah.
was like near impossible because you'd have to get other people involved. And she's married to a retired Navy. She's been with American Airlines for 25 years, and she's like, honey, I'm so sorry, no one from American, because everyone would be like, no, you got to talk to somebody else. Didn't care. I told her the cause. She's like, I will get this done. She contacted her direct supervisor. He's like, hey, if you want to work on it, you can dedicate 4 hours of your American Airlines time, but the rest comes out of your personal time. And she has made this happen. And so George is going to go stay with her until Barcelona to make any last minute changes. So without George, again, this thing would not happen. This thing would not happen without the support of a lot of people. We get the sexy part, they get the hard part.
Same is true of what we used to do for a living. Yeah, I don't think people understand the support to operator ratio is so far askew, especially at the East Coast.
You know, when people ask, like, well, what do you mean? Like, Intel analysts were easily reading 250 pages a day to find us a target.
Yeah.
And they built relationships to the point where our female Intel rep would be like, hey, I think you guys should go out on this target and lay out the case. And you'd be like, you sure? She'd say yes. But like, okay, we're going.
Yeah, let's get it. All right, so we got lunch today. We got the premiere tonight of Mike's documentary,
which comes out January 9th on Extreme International, Roku, Fit TV.
Do you watch much TV?
No.
I don't
have time.
I don't either. I'll try to catch a movie every once in a while. Leah's into Marvel movies, so I'll wind down the end of the day watching some ridiculous.
Does Leah want you to admit that?
To admit what?
She's watching baby movies, the Marvel movies?
Baby movies?
I'm joking.
They're superhero movies.
I know.
Yeah. It's not like the Finding Nemo shit. Although I've watched that movie thousands of times with my children.
Did you ever tell the story about July 4th in Iceland? Over the table full of copper cups? No. So in Iceland, this was the day that Andy almost beat the living shit out of the...
Few people.
Well, you weren't going to touch Tommy.
No, I wasn't going to touch Tommy.
Tommy has a good heart, just out of his league. You were going to kill a Norwegian, the guy who headed up the trip, and we pulled off. So we end up in the same hotel that they're at. And
surprise, motherfuckers!
They're avoiding us. The amount of, I'm sure you got texts from other people that were on the trip.
Yes.
That were like, thank you for what you guys did.
Yep.
The trip continued to be
Yep.
messed up, but we end up, because I drink something called Mule 6, which is a twist on a Moscow Mule.
What's the twist? I forget what it is.
It's whiskey.
That's what it was.
Mule 6 in the military, if you have a call sign, if it's followed by a 6, that means you're the commander or the senior enlisted of that group. And so I'm the Mule 6. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
So we end up
your own
drinking
mind you
these.
are, for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in my own mind. We end up drinking probably amongst the group of, let's see, there was 6 of us.
Denver, Erica, myself, Leah, Will, and you. 6.
We easily drink through probably about 100 of those.
Don't forget the bottles of wine at dinner.
Yes.
I think we went through 4 bottles of wine at dinner.
And we went until about 4 in the morning. We went from like...
Hard to say because the sun never fucking goes down.
Yes, that's true. We drank for probably 6 hours.
Yeah.
And I remember with Leah, because Will's telling the story about the buckled honey.
Yeah. Murder Leah comes out.
Yeah, she's like... She's wasted by this point because Will had a girl that left him for a...
Let's be clear. We are all fucking wasted at this point.
But she kept saying, hey, Will, do you want me to beat her up? And everything. Like, we'd tell a story and Leah'd be like, hey, do you want me to beat that guy up? And like, Andy, I think your wife is... she wasn't your wife by then.
No, we
She's
were
your
engaged.
fiance.
Yeah. She's a savage, man. She fucking works hard. She's super humble about...
Nicest woman in the world. Until she doesn't need to be.
Yeah, and it's, she has dedicated, I think, almost 14 years of her life to jiu-jitsu at this point, whether it be through competition or teaching. I mean, she's the main kids coach where I train, and honestly, anybody who's willing to coach kids at anything deserves a fucking sainthood right off the bat, because I could not do it. And I'll go in there and watch, I'm just like, I gotta get out of here. Yeah, but she's a badass in her own right, for sure. Super quiet about it. She actually doesn't like talking about it that much. I can't even get her to come on the goddamn podcast.
Yeah, that's got to change.
She's just like, well, I need to have something to talk about. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Like starting a company for women's geese.
For women's geese.
She's going to have to come into the... I couldn't think of a better representative for women in the sport.
Totally agree, yeah.
And you know, that says a lot. Just like I feel like it's cringy to be one of the primary focuses of the documentary. I understand where she's coming from.
Yeah.
But she'll get over that. And if she can impact a few women in the sport and be a representative, she's doing good, man.
Yeah, it'll make a huge impact, in my opinion, at least. So, yeah, dude, I think that's it. I mean, we've been at it, I think, for almost an hour and a half. I just wanted to give people an update on where we are, which we covered. Where we're going to go, we covered that. What else did we leave out as far as the 777? Did we leave out anything?
Nope, that's it. And then we'll let people know the last day we're jumping into Tampa.
Yes, and that'll be a celebratory jump because the
record.
Yeah, the record will actually end in Australia.
We wanted to do it in the U.S., but by choosing Australia to end it, we saved like 40 hours.
Yeah, I was going to say, what did the airline travel get shaved down to?
105 to 65, 105 hours on board planes to 65. So we just gave ourselves 40
Huge
hours.
buffer, 2 days worth.
Yes,
essentially.
to hit that 7-day mark. No, and then Legacy Expeditions stand by. I think we're gonna start setting these trips up for groups.
Yep.
The veterans. This has been 2 years in the making, and I'm excited. There's been a lot of hard work, and I think Legacy Expeditions is going to be an awesome content company. It's going to be an awesome leadership development company, and then we're going to skyrocket your podcast even further. Would you just get ranked 700, top 700? Or
Yeah, top 700
of the
globally.
Of the world.
Yeah,
and there are over 10 million podcasts. I think the number's actually higher now.
probably.
So
Joe's responsible for like half of those. He's like, you should start a podcast, and you should start a podcast, and you should.
you didn't tell me that.
Thank God. But he knows his stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He sees talent when he sees it. Yeah.
What do you want to close out with?
That's it, man.
All right, go watch Mike's documentary. We'll leave it at that.